Hello, thank you for downloading this episode of Chats Over Coffee with my yoga teacher, with the comedian Peter Brush, that's me, and my yoga teacher, Kayla McCormack, who you'll be hearing in a mere matter of seconds when I've stopped rambling. This is about my 8th take of doing the introduction, because I always mess up somewhere and say something stupid and then think it sounds bad, and I'm starting to slip into that territory again. Basically, if you've not heard this before, this is a podcast where I have a hot drink, and she has a hot drink, and we chat. And there's usually something yoga related in it, but it's hopefully accessible enough for people that don't do it. Anyway, for the bulk of this week's episode, we talk about alternate nostril breathing and what that is and why that helps. But there's also a lot of other stuff in there about patenting yoga styles and spacemen. So, you got that to look forward to, hopefully. Anyway, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the show. You heard of the humane mouse traps? Where they catch the mouse but they don't die because it catches it in a thing, and then you've got to go miles away to release it, but you have to go over a certain threshold of a couple of miles because the mouse always finds its way back if it's within a couple of miles.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So what I think would be quite fun is if you took it just under the threshold of the distance, right, and then you release the mouse and then you raced it home. Noel Gallagher's the first person I ever wanted to be, I think.
Oh, that's great.
Because I loved Oasis, but I liked him because he was I knew he was kind of like the driving force creatively, and so I kind of maybe very egotistically wanted to be my own driving creative force for something, whatever I was going to end up doing, which is not a band, obviously, in the end, but it's now just me standing in front of drunk people trying to get them to respect me. so that's what that turned into, but... Did you want to be anybody when you were a kid?
No, not really. I remember thinking when I was in my early teens, I really wanted to go to university. Not for the drinking and the partying, not that side of university, but the academic world really appealed to me. When you see it in when you see it in films that happen to have magic in them or something, and then they're like, ooh, it's like, oh, it's, this is going on, but then this is happening. But the whole academic world always looked really interesting.
And you did go to university in the end.
I go every Monday.
Oh yeah, you do. You teach there. I'm always really nervous doing student gigs and stuff now because, firstly, anytime I perform in front of students, I feel older and older.
I know.
I feel so old. I always thought it was going to be cool, and maybe it's still cool. I don't know. Maybe it never was cool. I don't know. I'm always having arguments about what constitutes being cool. I think I'm cool in the definition that I would give of being cool.
Yeah.
But maybe not what the universal definition of being cool is. I don't know. So I'm not asking your opinion. You don't have to tell me if you think I'm cool or not. But you don't have to. I'm not even forced. I'm not twisting your arm or anything. You don't have to. You just. Don't have to respond to that. You can if you want, but you don't. Anyways, right? Okay. Well,
I'm just waiting to see how long you'll go if I stay quiet.
I'm not bothered. I'm not even bothered. You might not even. Your opinion on what's cool might not be valid anyway.
Well, I've got a 2000 Southern American opinion on what's cool. So.
What, skater people and from?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I can't think of a band,
Baggy Shorts,
Smash Mouth or something.
Maybe. They were a little bit old, but yeah, maybe Smash Mouth. Anyway.
All right.
Anyway, what did you want to talk about today that would be of any use to our podcast?
Oh, yeah, remember.
Remember that thing we used to do?
Yeah, it's kind of liberating to have loads of weeks off though, isn't it?
It was quite nice. Yeah.
I do like talking to you and everything, but it's like...
Oh, I've realised this week, or yesterday or today, how I missed a trick. I'm doing all the niyamas in my focus classes, and I should have posted the links in with the podcast from last time, because we covered that. Was it last year around this time?
You can still do that for the last couple of ones.
Yeah, I could do.
Remind you what numbers they are, because they weren't all in order.
Yeah, but they've got the names, haven't they?
Yeah, stupid names. I hate coming up with titles. I think it's like...
Oh, well, you're better than me.
Terrible. I was questioning it. I don't even know if the title of the podcast is any good, really. Every time I do the introduction, I have to say the whole thing, I think, because it's such a long title. I say it and I think, this is good. If it was just like a... Jabberings or something like that, and I could just say, welcome to Jabberings. I wouldn't even think about it because I'm saying something with about 18 syllables. I'm thinking, is this a good name for it? Don't know. I haven't looked at any of because I don't even look at the listening numbers anymore.
I know, I stopped getting charts.
Because it's like looking at your bank account is always lower than you think. So what I do when I put a new episode up, when I get the podcasting hosting app up, I take my glasses off to do it, so that I don't see the number of downloads, because I don't want to know. So there's me like squinting, sort of. Oh, gosh. Anyway, did we say we wanted to talk about hand mudras?
Hand witches?
Hand mudras.
Oh, right. I thought you were saying like sandwiches, but hand witches. Like, what?
You never had a handwidge? Traditional British handwidge?
Oh, dear.
Because mudras, you said you want to do more research about. So what about alternate nostril breathing?
Yeah. So you mentioned... So what were you thinking about it? What's your...
Obviously, I suppose you don't know what that is. It's what you just put like your thumb over one nostril and sometimes breathe in through one and out the other, and sometimes breathe in through one and then back out the same one. Or
so alternate would definitely be one in and out the other.
Oh, just try and explain to me what the logic is between... Like, is there some magical, like, if you do it out of one nostril, it theoretically connects to one part of the brain? Or,
yeah, of course.
Or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
And so just go through the whole, like, what the logic is between breathing through different parts of your nose and what the hell that's all about.
So your brain, one half of your body is controlled by the opposite half of the brain. So, like, your right nostril is controlled by the left side of the brain. And then your left side of your brain also controls your sympathetic nervous system. So that your right nostril would be, you might think about it as being like an active mindset. So like being alert and awake and things like that. Whereas your left nostril, which is controlled by the right side of the brain, and the right side of the brain also controls your parasympathetic nervous system. So your rest and digest system, trying to be more relaxed and chilled. So there is a little bit of idea that you can bring about a little bit more balance by breathing in and out consciously through both, because your body chooses a dominant nostril every like 4 to 5 hours or something. I mean, obviously you might not be noticeable, might be very noticeable, but like if you breathe in and out through just your nose, you might think like, oh, I can breathe easier through this side. And then maybe a few hours later, it might change or it might stay the same.
It's like a shift work, is it? Sort of.
Yeah. But your body actually does that. So like the nose actually will swell slightly, or vice, you might think of it the other way around. But, you know, one side will be more constricted than the other. And your body chooses that, which nostril is the dominant nostril for a few hours or whatever. So by taking that alternate nostril breathing, or by taking one side, you can theoretically kind of connect with changing that. So you're making that choice to activate maybe a certain hemisphere of your brain, or to maybe get the mind into the mindset of rest and digest or something. So after our like a strong vinyasa class, a few times that we've done it after that, when we're laying down before shavasana, I might say to just cover your right nostril and breathe in through the left continuously. So in and out through your left nostril. And then the idea with that is that activates your parasympathetic nervous system and tries to slow you down a little bit so you can chill. But admittedly, you know, this isn't, even though some of that is known by science, saying that plugging your right nostril and breathing in through your left is definitely going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system is a little bit iffy. Like, I don't think every doctor in the world is going to go, oh, yes, wonderful. You know, it's not something that's like set in stone. It's just kind of like, we know that that's there. And maybe, you know, when you're doing any sort of study, especially about this kind of stuff, it's really hard to take out other things that could be causing that. So you breathe in and out through your left nostril to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. But is that working because we told you that's going to calm you down? And is it a little bit of like, you just told yourself, oh, this calms me down, so I'm going to do this, and then...
Well, because would it not work with the other nostril anyway, to some extent, if you were just taking deep breaths anyway? Would you not calm down if you use the other side as well?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, the theory would be that no, you wouldn't necessarily calm down. You would be more alert. But it depends on what you mean by calm, obviously.
It sounds like fine-tuning yourself, like doing one and then or the other to try and get, you know, it's like trying to get the right level of seasoning or something.
Or like when you're tuning an instrument. Oh, I need a little bit more right. Oh, left.
Yeah, so it's like if you're in like an anxious situation, you couldn't just like if you're in a cue for the doctors or something.
To be honest, if you were really anxious, I would say take a different breath. I would say to breathe in and then breathe out slower than you breathe in, or longer than you breathe in. That would be your best bet if you're feeling pretty like nervous about something, because that does activate your parasympathetic nervous system, because your breath is one of the main bridges that can actually connect you to those automatic nervous system responses, because your breath changes depending on how you feel. So if you are anxious, your breath will change. If you're, worried or scared, your breath will change. Like the idea of like holding your breath if you think, you're really scared, or that shock or stuff like that. So you can consciously try to come out of that feeling by taking some breaths that would counter that. So, saying like, I'm not scared, and taking really big, deep, slow breaths. If you imagine it like, if you were hiding from a predator or something like that in a bush or whatever in your living room, or however you want to think about it, like as a lion in your living room and he hasn't spotted you yet. Oh, there's a lion there, but he didn't notice me. What would you do? Well, you'd instantly hold your breath, wouldn't you? Because you'd be so scared, you don't want to draw any attention to yourself.
Oh, I'd have a go at him.
Well, maybe you'd fight.
What the hell are you doing in my house?
But there's that idea that if you feel a little bit frightened, maybe from a bad dream or something intangible, something that's not actually real, you might take some big deep breaths to try and get rid of that fear, because there's no need to hold on to that or something. You don't need to hold your breath and stuff, but there is that connection there. So that's hopefully the idea between any breath work. But with the alternate nostril breathing, I quite like that. I feel like that really has a place. And at the very least, when I do the alternate nostril breathing, I feel like both my nostrils open up, so I can breathe through them both nearly equally. And I don't know if that's just me or...
But sometimes it's just you put your thumb over one and then you breathe in, and then you close the open nostril and open the one that wasn't, and then you breathe out, and then you breathe in through that one and then close it and then go out the other. So what's the logic of that? Because that's using both. So you don't get my sort of like perk you up from one side, calm down the other side.
Well, you always
analogy,
have at least one more or two more on one side, wouldn't you? Because the nostril that you start, you breathe in through the left,
right.
Hold them both closed, so you have that pause in the breath, and then you exhale through the right, then you inhale through the right, hold them both closed, and then exhale left. So in the end, you breathe. And that's
one cycle.
And that's one cycle. So you always finish on the side that you want to activate. So if you had a busy class and you want to finish calming down, you breathe out through the left. And if you had a really relaxing class, but it's kind of the middle of the day, so you want to perk up, you might finish on the right side.
Okay, so there's logic to when you tell us to do it, there's logic as to which side you're telling us to finish up on there. So, that's interesting, because again, I suppose it goes back to something you said ages ago about like people just thinking that they can teach yoga because they're copying what they've done before. So you couldn't just say, let's just do some alternate nostrils. Have you actually got some thought into what nostril you're starting with?
I mean, don't get me wrong, like everyone kind of grows and expands their knowledge, and I would be silly to say that I'm not going to continue doing that. Like I've got 2 tabs on my web browser at the moment for courses that I want to buy. So obviously I'm always going to continue to grow and learn, and everybody will.
I'm not saying that you're complacent. That's fine.
But I do think that like that can make the difference between what comes across as a good yoga teacher and what might come across as a new yoga teacher, or maybe someone who doesn't seem quite experienced, and you might not be able to put your finger on it, but it's just not quite the same. And it can be stuff like that. Like they've not necessarily delved into the depths of what this is actually doing and what does it mean. Is this the right place to put it into the class?
Do they not teach that in training then?
Well, I can't teach everything in 200 hours. So we covered alternate nostril breathing in my teacher training, but that is not every teacher training will cover that particular pranayama. They might cover a completely different one. That's the only pranayama we covered in my teacher training. They covered a little bit in terms of like the phrasing and stuff, but they didn't delve into them. They just kind of mentioned them. And like, Kapalbhati, the fast exhalations, we didn't really cover that in my teacher training. So it's up to you to continue learning. And when you find something, that's why it's important for yoga teachers to do yoga, not just teach it. So because you'll come across the odd thing that you think, I've not heard that, or I've not seen that. I want to look into that. And then you'll look into it and you either decide that you like it and you want to add it to your classes and stuff, or you might look into it and think, actually that's not what I thought it was, or that's not for me. That doesn't sit right with me, or something like that.
So, wow, 200 hours and it still can't cover everything.
Oh, it can't cover everything that we learned in 5,000 years. How is that possible?
Yeah, but no, 5,000 years are just repeating a lot of stuff, aren't they? It's not like... Does the yoga encyclopedia get genuinely added to every year? Like with new...
No, not that much. There are a lot of new poses, but I think a lot of the newer poses are more like maybe added in for modern life. You know, like either they're easier or they're adaptations or they're fun, like that, or they've taken a little bit from dance.
Do people patent new poses today?
No, but you can find patents for styles.
Yeah, right, okay.
Like rocket yoga, I think that's a patent, though I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
So does that mean if you teach it, you have to pay?
Oh, you have to be rocket yoga trained usually.
Oh,
so
right,
usually
okay.
It ends up being like a one-off fee rather than an actual like, this is how much is, you pay monthly or something. It's not like that.
What is rocket yoga then?
Oh, it's like a power yoga. So like really fast, like maybe harder than vinyasa, I would say. Probably a lot harder if you get to the right class.
And it's more distinctive as a style for it to have its own pattern then.
I think rocket yoga has a lot of upside downness in it. Like forearm stands and head balances and handstands. So like in the middle of vinyasa, you might just be like, right, now pop up into a handstand. Bam. And then it's a bit crazy. It's rocket yoga. I could be wrong with that as well, though, but I'm pretty sure that is pretty... No, I haven't. No. The only rocket yoga teachers around here are in London, so...
Oh, it would be in bloody London, wouldn't
Everything's
it?
in London, so... Forest yoga is another one.
I've heard of that. I got recommended that to me when I was interested in starting, because I got told there would be more blokes there. That's what I got told.
There are more blokes. I wonder why that is.
I mean, not that bothers me, because I'm very comfortable being around whoever really, but it's not like I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, I'd rather nobody be there. But forest sounds a little bit mystical to me.
No, it's the exact opposite of that. No, her last name is Forest.
Oh, right.
It's named after a woman, and her last name is
It's not in
Forest.
a forest. Okay.
She honestly, one of the people that I did my yoga teacher training with, his wife did forest yoga teacher training. And he says the training is meant to break you. Like, it is so emotionally draining and hard. And it just, like, asks you all the big questions and pushes you. And, like, when you say, like, oh, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. And people are pretty accepting of that, like, in a situation. They might just be like, why not? Why don't you? Like, really, it sounded to me like to be really not my cup of tea. But a class style, not a teacher training, as a class style, is quite good. Every class includes a fear-based pose. So something to break your fear. So whether that's a handstand against a wall or a headstand or something like that, something that you might be a little bit nervous or afraid to do, every class will usually include something like that so that you kind of push yourself.
Like doing a pose next to a spider or something.
Not quite.
Okay. Well, that sounds like that they should have like a forest yoga teacher training sort of film inspired by Full Metal Jacket or something, where they're just like one of the yoga teachers breaks and I don't know if have you seen Full Metal Jacket?
I don't think I have. I obviously have heard of it, but I'm not.
I think it's a great film, but it's, you know the basic what I mean from? There. Well, it's set in Vietnam, but it's from 87, I think.
87? That's before I was born.
No, not long before you. It wouldn't be
well, yeah,
long
but I'm
before
not
you were
going to
born,
watch Full Metal Jacket when I'm 2 years old, am I?
Oh, of course you're not, but have you never seen a film that was made before you were born?
To be honest, I think what it is I'm not a massive fan of war films.
Okay.
I haven't seen Pearl Harbor either. That was really big when that came out.
Yeah, but that looks shit. That.
Did it? Have you not seen it?
Yeah, it looks really... They were trying to make
it was really good.
No, they didn't. Like, they tried to make some sort of... It's basically an attempt at making Titanic, but, like, with another disaster.
Right.
Basically.
Okay.
It's like... No, people don't... It's not acclaimed at all. I don't know what...
Okay. Well, maybe it's just an American thing, then.
Got to give it more taste over here.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I'm sure it was a massive hit, both sides of the Atlantic, but...
I really do, honestly, when they show the themes for the war films, I'm not saying that there isn't a place for them and that they don't have, like, I don't know, like, not storylines, but you know what I mean? Like, they might be very deep and stuff, but it just really doesn't... That's not the kind of thing that I think, oh, yeah, I want to see that.
There's a Frankie Boyle joke where he says the worst thing about American wars is that not only do they have a war and destroy a country, but then what they'll do 20 years later, they'll go back and make a film there about how it made all their soldiers feel sad.
Exactly.
Okay, so sorry, that went wildly off topic there.
Yeah, I don't know how we got
forest yoga. Forest yoga, full metal jacket. Well,
okay.
the full metal jacket is two halves of the film. The first half of the film is in the boot camp where they're like breaking them, making them killers and stuff. But then one of them like freaks out and ends up like I can't remember if he kills everybody, but it's the drill sergeant or something.
Right.
But,
okay.
And then the second half is just they do a bit of combat stuff, and there's like the second half is all right, but the first half is what makes it a great film,
right.
in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's all opinions. It's all opinions. You know, some people
course.
think Pearl Harbor might be good, but you know, it's just like, who am I to say, really? But if you come up with a new yoga style or new yoga pose or something, I'm just wondering how you develop it or something. Do you just like come up with it in the bath, like the eureka moment?
Probably not. It's most likely going to happen on the mat, I would have thought, rather than in a bathtub. But maybe if your eureka moment is water yoga.
Has that been patented? Is there?
I have no idea. Quick.
Yeah.
Quick, patent the water yoga.
Could you yoga underwater? Maybe?
Well, I wouldn't be trying to do like, I don't know, a pigeon pose in the bottom of a pool, but
you couldn't do too many breathing exercises, could you?
I'm breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, there is like sup yoga where you balance on those big boards in water and try and do yoga on water.
There's an area where it slides into gimmick rather than being genuinely beneficial for your health, isn't there? I mean,
oh yes, definitely, and maybe it's partly fun as well. You know, like I imagine doing like sup yoga would be quite fun, where you're like on a board and you're trying to balance and you're paddling out, and it's like basically you're swimming, and then someone's trying to tell you to do yoga poses, and you're with other people, and it'd be quite funny. I would imagine you fall a lot. So
is that what your Hindu was?
Oh dear, no, I had a bridal shower.
Oh yeah, well, because it's more dignified. You don't fancy you patenting your own yoga style then? Are you secretly working on your own?
Yeah, I'm secretly working on Kayla yoga. No.
That's exactly what someone that was working on it would say to throw me off.
I don't know. I think as a yoga teacher, unless you want to patent like an actual studio and maybe make it into a bit of a franchise of studios, which isn't too, you can keep it small franchise and still be a franchise. You know what I mean? Like, unless you want to go down some route like that, I do think like for the most part as an individual teacher, you just want to work on what you like, so in a sense you build your brand.
Maybe I should go to more yoga teachers and see what the difference is now.
Well, you could do. We could sneakily find some teachers and go together, and then afterwards we can talk about them. Yeah. That's not very nice. I don't mean that.
Sounds like espionage.
I know.
Should we talk about them on here and how crap they were?
Wouldn't that be awful?
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
Well,
we can do that with comedians if you want. We'll go watch the show, and then I'll tell you why they were really hack and boring, and why, even though the audience loved them, why everything they're doing is a cheat. You know?
Part of your teacher training as a yoga teacher, you do have to attend multiple classes and try to find different styles and stuff.
Do they know you're doing it, or are you just
Well, these days people ask to be observers, but when we did it, we were told to just attend the class, and then it's kind of your choice if you want to tell them you're in training or not. That's like, it's a personal thing, it doesn't really matter. But like, nowadays, a lot of students actually, I've had people contact me and say, oh, can I observe when you're in class? And when they say that, they literally mean to watch. They're going to take notes and write and watch. They're not actually going to participate. And I find that a little bit odd. I've never had that. I've never had anyone do that in person. Thank goodness. I don't think I could do it. I think I'd be like, what are you doing?
They were just in a Zoom call or something.
Yeah. They've just had a couple recordings or attended a class in Zoom. So it's not as weird because it's like, well, I can't see you anyway. So.
It's weird for everybody else in the class as well to have someone taking notes at the same time. It's like having an Ofsted inspection or something. Yeah,
so you as a teacher, you would have to tell them that person is in training and is just going to observe me, not you guys, or something like that. You'd have to make sure.
So we're going to be professional. We're going to actually do the class properly this week. Yeah. That's what you. We had once, I mean, this is the joys you miss out of being homeschooled and stuff, but you'd have supply teachers, obviously, sometimes when a teacher was off. Sadly, I missed this particular class because I was in, I don't know what I was doing, but anyway, our geography teacher was off once and got replaced by some substitute teacher that must have been quite a young man or something.
Yeah.
And he ended up not teaching anything that he would have been designated to teach the class at all, and then just taught them kung fu moves for the whole hour.
Oh my gosh.
And when our teacher came back, I was there for that. He was absolutely fuming. So who did what?
That's hilarious.
But when we used to have Ofsted inspections and stuff, it was just stupid. Like, we'd have teachers that we would. I mean, I wasn't a big misbehaviour. I was cheeky because I wouldn't be funny, but I wouldn't be like horrible or anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't always appreciated, but anyway, some classes you would just be an absolutely just a shit show because the teacher had no authority or anything. And then when the inspectors came in, it's just like a completely different. You could actually end up behaving for that one class because you knew that if you didn't, then there would be more repercussions for you and stuff.
Right.
But it's just like the fact that someone was observing it just completely changed the dynamic of what it normally would have been. Like, it affects the way you behave, it affects the way that
they almost need to get like some sort of spy in to observe the classes rather than an actual observer
dressed up as a child.
Like,
it's an exchange student that happens to be 30 something.
Like what's that one with, is it Steve Buscemi when he dresses like that meme that's going around? Yeah, that one. It's like that. Hello, fellow children.
So anything else about breathing, nostril stuff or anything? I mean, that didn't seem like there was loads to say on that. I thought it was going to be like this whole sort of...
I think we covered it, didn't we?
Right, if you say so. I mean, I've got nothing to add to it because I don't know anything. So, I mean, I could just give a reference and sort of say that I seem to think like it does something.
Yeah.
Like I for some reason, I quite enjoy doing it, but I don't know whether that's because there was like a novelty to it the first time I did it. I thought it was like... Also, it's a bit like... This sounds ridiculous, but it's a little bit like playing an instrument in a way, isn't it? Like, you know, you practice all your fingering on an instrument.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know, it takes me back to trumpet lessons when I was a kid.
Trumpet lessons.
Yeah. I used to play the trumpet. I used to play the cornet, which is a small version of a trumpet. Oh.
Was that because you were small? Do small people play small versions of trumpets when they're small? Like when you're a kid, do you play a cornet, and when you get older, you upgrade to the trumpet?
I couldn't lift up the trumpet, obviously. And I can't remember because the school did have a brass band, but I can't remember what the other instruments were. Like, I don't remember anyone else playing like a trombone or anything. Maybe there were trumpets and cornets. I assume they make slightly different noises. Wish I'd kept that up in some ways, but it's very difficult to tell.
Well, I think, to be honest, I think it needs to be the parents. But then, if you're not that way inclined as a parent, you won't. So, because like my parents, I think I had like a very small number of piano lessons at one point in my life, and I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't mind the music, but I didn't like the learning. I was quite young, but like, you know, when you're just like, I can't be bothered, and they're like, oh, practice, and it's like, the same song over and over and over again.
Well, that's what you've got. If you really want to be good at something,
I know, but like,
you got to do
as a 9-year-old, no 9-year-old is going to want to do that. So you either have to push it a little bit. So like, you do your maths homework and you practice your piano and then you can play, or you don't. And if you're the kind of parent who doesn't, then you probably won't learn an instrument, and then you'll have to try and learn it when you're older, which is harder. And obviously a bit makes you feel like crap because you're like, why am I so crap? Why can't I play the guitar? Why won't my fingers move?
Yeah, and you're like a 35-year-old man trying to play some stupid nursery rhyme on the piano and just like getting wrong.
And you just feel a little bit silly. Yeah. But I'm not saying that all parents have to be forceful like that. I just mean, like, I think that really, to be really good at playing, you have to have played for, like, since you were a child, really.
And it is hard being a kid to want to do that, I think.
It's not something that you want to do as a kid.
You can't have future you come back and say, oh, you really should be, because you'll appreciate being able to do it when you're an adult. But
honestly, I would put it in line with, like, doing your homework, any homework. Nobody wants to do it. I mean, maybe there's a few prodigies out there, obviously, but most people will just be like...
I suppose if you did it and found that everyone loved you doing it, then you'd be more incentivized to continue, I suppose, wouldn't you? But
maybe.
Maybe if everyone was like, "Oh, you're the best one," and you keep winning prizes for being the best trumpeter.
Is that a way to like pretend? Like, what if you just like told your child they were really good when actually they were crap, and you kept giving them prizes to keep them playing?
That's what parents do these days. They make their kids feel too special. That's what. That's true. No one's special. That's my opinion.
I'm special.
Yeah. Well. It's all relative, isn't it? I mean, you might be special compared to other people, but not in the grand scheme of things. I don't know. I almost feel like I don't know.
Well, I think there's the idea that when we were growing up, like you can, like you're saying, you can be anything you want to be, you can do anything you want to do, and maybe that stemmed from the idea of like less segregation and more equal rights for women and things like that. But all it comes across as when you're a kid is you can do anything. So when you grow up and you can't do anything, it's a little bit like, what? You told me I could do anything. I mean, like, try to be an astronaut. It's actually really difficult to get into astronaut training, and it's really difficult to actually go into space. And, like, sure, you can try, but that's not going to mean that you actually get anywhere, and you'll probably just spend 10 years under the water in Florida, where they've got that, because they've got an exact copy of the space station deep underwater off the coast of Florida that you practice being in space. So you could probably just spend all of your life there off the coast of Florida and never actually get into space.
Yeah. You need a plan B, don't you, if you're going to be an astronaut, I think, don't you? So
you can't be an astronaut unless you're physically quite fit. So you don't send people up into space who could potentially die from it, obviously. So you have to go through loads of important tests to make sure you're physically capable of being in space. Almost like going through the army.
I can sense an astronaut training Full Metal Jacket inspired film.
Another one.
I mean, obviously, like, not many people get to walk in space and stuff now. I mean, it seems like the best way to try and get yourself to get into space these days is to start a massive company. I suppose.
Yeah, but SpaceX.
Do you know more astronauts than most people, do you think? Because you study...
I don't know any astronauts. Sorry. That was a little bit of a joke, because I don't actually know anyone who's been into space. Not that I don't know of them.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Being a bit pretentious. I did meet an astronaut once when I went to where did we go? The Kennedy Space Center down in Florida. Right. And you meet an astronaut, that's what you do. You go to Kennedy Space Center, you listen to a talk, and you meet an astronaut.
Was it a real astronaut, Indeed. Or was it like when you go to Disneyland and it's not really Mickey Mouse? Is it just a bloke in a space suit?
No, he's a real astronaut. It tells you his, the day he went up and what he did and who he was and what it was like. But it's never anyone famous, obviously, because the famous people were like 3 and they're probably nearly dead, like Buzz Aldrin and all those.
Buzz Aldrin and Tim Peake, because he's British. They're the only ones I'd name. Did you see my animation thing? That I didn't do the animation, but I wrote the thing about the dog that went up into space.
No.
The Russians did send a dog into space, didn't they? Do you know that
someone did?
The Russians did. Before they sent a human so that they knew it was safe, they'd sent a dog into space.
Yeah.
Because they used to do a joke about it, but it didn't always work. Sometimes it did, but it didn't always work. About how it's not very fair to send a dog up into space because they don't know what's going on. So the poor dog is like in this thing, floating up into the air, looking out the window, doesn't really know what's happening, but they're just getting further and further away from the ball, which is the Earth, obviously. So it's like a sad thing for them. But I was pointed out to me that that's a factually inaccurate joke as well, because the dog would be orbiting the Earth, not getting further away. And so I thought, is that where it falls down, really? But
Probably
anyway,
not.
someone animated that for me, and it's on my YouTube.
We talked about Private Ham, didn't we? The monkey that went into space.
No, we didn't.
We didn't talk about Private Ham?
Private Ham is the monkey that went into space. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's a monkey. Went into space. He was the first monkey. I don't know if he was the first animal.
He won't have been if the dog went into space. He won't have been the first.
Unless he went in before the dog.
He won't have done. No. The dog's very famous.
No, I think you're right. I think the dog went in
very
first.
Famous for
but
being first.
They sent Private Ham up and brought him back. Did the dog leave there?
They left the dog in space.
Yeah, they brought Private Ham back. Private Ham to the ripe old age of 60 or something. He was quite old by the time he died. He was a famous astronaut, Private Ham.
He had some great anecdotes as well. So. The other monkeys were thought of like, this guy's talking shit. He's been to space.
I know, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but it was before humans, but after dog, and they brought the monkey back.
Right,
I think
so
that
the
was
first
part of
animal
the
to
test,
return.
They wanted to put him into space and bring him back so they could see how space affected his body, you know. So
and thankfully, it was fine. It didn't like.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Nobody's fine after they go into space.
Okay. They're not.
That's not a good place for the human body to be.
But do you recover, or is it just like you feel a bit crap for a couple of days?
Recover? Depends on how bad you had it.
Right.
How long you spend up there, how much bone density you lose, how swollen your head gets, how your organs are affected. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, you could come back and recover 100%, but there will be problems as well if some people who don't recover 100%.
So anyone thinking of being an astronaut's been given
God, you could never get me in space.
Oh, okay.
No way.
That's why it's not
horrible.
okay. That's why it's not.
Yeah, it's not because I'm not,
People are always asking you to go to space.
Everyone wants me to go to space, but I just keep saying no, thank you. Yeah. Not good for the complexion. I might have to get going.
Go. It's fine. Go. Well, you got class at 5:30 or 6 or?
It's at 6. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Should I press stop and then leave and stuff? And... Thanks for listening. I hope that was all right for you. You know, ease us back in after a break, perhaps. Next week we're not here. 2 weeks time because it comes out every 2 weeks. We're back, and I think there's some nature versus nurture stuff. I mean, maybe we don't know what the hell we're talking about. Well, we're just chatting. Yeah, we're just chatting. Feel free to follow us on social media. If you only like one of us, just follow the one you like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to tell your friends and family and any interested WhatsApp groups that you might have about us, because it'd be nice to have new listeners. Not that we don't like you. Honestly, you're the best, but second place is up for grabs, and we'd like new candidates for that. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I've done this very well. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.